Now we are less than 2 weeks from the UFC 279. I believe it is time for us to take a closer look at the main event which this entire card is built for. Khamzat Chimaev versus Nathan Diaz. Before we dive in deeper, let's take a step back a little and discuss the progression leading into the fight. When UFC announced this fight, I was very confused because Khamzat is on a 4-fight win streak, whereas Nate Diaz hasn't won since 2019. But I feel there is something Nate has that the organization wants to give it to Khamzat, the fan base. If Khamzat beats Nate in a dominating fashion, he could become the next Conor McGregor without even becoming a champion. Though his performance against Gilbert Burns wasn't that decisive in comparison with what most people expecting him to do, which is to absolutely dominating the fight. We have seen something from Khamzat that hasn't been shown in the past. Many people, including me at first, think this is a walk in the park for Khamzat Chimaev, but is this fight really that easy for him? In this video, we are going to take a closer look at several different aspects of these two fighters and compare them. The first is strength. It is very clear for everyone to see Khamzat is more explosive and punches harder. He usually explodes on his opponent at the very beginning of the first round. This is how he won his first 3 UFC fights, including the former 11th rank, the Leech. Also, Khamzat looks physically larger than Nate. We have seen him picking up Leech and walking across the octagon and dropping Gilbert Burns in the first round with one punch. All of this shows that Chimaev has ferocious power that not many fighters in the division can match. But shockingly, many of you guys probably don't know is that Nate actually has a longer reach than Chimaev, which means Chimaev probably needs to work a little bit harder than many of us have thought to get Nate. At the end of the day, I'm going to give Chimaev a 7-3 against Nathan Diaz in terms of strength. Movement. Despite having crazy knockout power, Chimaev's movement is a little bit one-dimensional. In the fight against Gilbert Burns, he got hit in the jaw 3 or 4 times in a row because of his lack of head movement. If Chimaev does not address this in the next fight against Nate, I can definitely see him getting tagged by the Stockton slaps later in the rounds. From what we have seen so far, when Chimaev fights, he tends to fight recklessly and ignore defending. And Nate is a beast in the later rounds, catching you off guard, so I'm going to give Chimaev a 5.5 to 4.5 on the movement. Cardio. This is the area I think Nate for sure surpasses Khamzat in. Despite being a high-paced fighter, Nate Diaz has one of the best gas tank in the division. Are people going to forget the way he absorbed shots from a fighter like Conor McGregor and submitted him in the second round? That was probably the biggest upset in the history of the sport. And Chimaev fights like Conor in some way, both very explosive and have a lot of output in the beginning. We saw Chimaev slow down considerably in the Gilbert Burns fight. While he was slowing down, he got tagged multiple times by Burns. Nate would probably do the same. Again, I would never count out Nathan Diaz on any fight, man. This guy can get dominated for 4 rounds and come back on the 5th and shock the world like we almost saw in the fight against Leon Edwards, the current welterweight champion. If Nate Diaz survives some of the best shots from Khamzat in the first and second rounds, I wouldn't be surprised to see Nate being the one putting the pressure on the later rounds. So I would give Nate a 6-4 against Khamzat for cardio. Grappling. Chimaev has the most aggressive wrestling style in the welterweight division in my opinion. Many people compare him with Khabib. I think Khabib does a little bit better job controlling his opponents using leg locks, but Chimaev chose to smash you rather than controlling you. Also, unlike Khabib, Chimaev doesn't need to pressure his opponent against the fence to finish the takedown. He can do it almost anywhere and anytime. And the wrestling match he had against middleweight fighter Jack Hermanson, Chimaev just looked unstoppable. Although Chimaev might look so much better in terms of grappling than Nate Diaz on paper, Nate's jiu-jitsu skill is so underrated. Who would have thought that Nate could finish Conor McGregor? Let's be honest here. Nobody, right? Why do you think Dana White gave Conor Nate in the first place? Because everyone expect Conor to finish Nate like he finished everyone else prior to that. I would never count off Nate winning against anyone. Dude's a savage. But I have to give this one to Chimaev. a 6-4. Mentality. Nate's will to fight is without a doubt one of the best in the organization. He simply does not give a crap if he got beaten for 3 rounds. He will always come back guns of blazing at you at the end. The more I think about Nathan Diaz, the more I want to give him the nickname Zombie. Maybe he should be named as the Stockton Zombie. Now let's look at Chimaev. Chimaev grew up in Chechnya, one of the harshest places in Russia. He mentioned in the interview, I grew up in my religion, some small village like Ya. It was a tough time when I was young. I remember that stuff as was after the war. I come to this world when it's World War and yeah, it was hard time without food. I believe there are no doubts about Chimaev's will to push forward. We have seen his ability to overcome adversity in the Burns fight. And he's still young in the sports. The sky is the limit for this guy. Overall, I think Khamzat should be able to capture the W at the end, but I personally think this entire card is part of the hype train that Dana wants to make Khamzat the next superstar, and at the same time getting rid of the older guys like Nate Diaz and Tony Ferguson. Hope you guys enjoyed my breakdown. If you do, please leave a thumbs up and consider subscribing for more UFC content. Thank you for watching. I will see you next time.